You keep saying you want peace. But what you really want is escape. Escape from pressure, from responsibility, from the chaos of your own mind. The modern man's greatest illusion is the belief that stillness equals peace. He wants quiet mornings, slow days, no drama. He calls that balance. But beneath that calm is decay. A man can be surrounded by silence and still be screaming inside. Comfort isn't peace. It's a sedative, a drug that kills slower than chaos, but just as completely. Peace has been rebranded. It's sold to you as lifestyle, scented candles, minimalism, mindfulness apps, a life free of friction. But peace doesn't come from reducing noise. It comes from commanding it. What most men call peace is simply avoidance with better lighting. They shut the world out because they can't master it. They call themselves calm because they've given up the fight. They retreat, thinking stillness makes them wise, when in truth, it only makes them irrelevant. Real peace isn't fragile. It doesn't require conditions. It doesn't depend on others behaving, or life going smoothly, or everything feeling good. Real peace exists inside the storm, not outside it. It's the man who can sit in chaos and remain composed. Not because he's numb, but because he's in control. The modern illusion teaches you to run from disturbance. True mastery teaches you to direct it. You are not built to hide from noise. You are built to rule it. But that takes power, and power comes from confrontation. To find real peace, you have to let go of the kind that's fake, the comfort that's hollow. You have to face the truth that your calmness is often cowardice in disguise. It's easier to call yourself peaceful than powerless, easier to claim enlightenment than admit exhaustion. Yet every time you withdraw from the fight of life, you train your spirit to settle for less. Peace is not the absence of conflict. It's the presence of control. It's not found in quiet rooms or simple routines, but in the man who can face everything and remain unshaken. You think you want peace, but what you really want is power. The power to remain calm without running away. Because until you understand that, your peace isn't peace, it's paralysis. The modern world has turned comfort into a religion, and you're one of its most devoted believers. Everywhere you look, the gospel of ease is preached in high definition. Faster delivery, softer routines, less effort, more reward. The message is simple. You deserve comfort. But comfort is not a gift. It's a leash. Every convenience you embrace tightens it. You call it progress, but what it really is conditioning. They don't sell you happiness. They sell you relief. Relief from hunger, from loneliness, from boredom, from the unbearable noise of your own thoughts. And you keep buying it, again and again, because it feels good, for a moment. But that's how they own you. The man addicted to comfort cannot rebel. He will always trade his freedom for a softer bed, a warmer screen, a smoother path. The world doesn't need to chain him. He chains himself, willingly, through his own desires. The truth is harsh. The more comfortable you are, the less capable you become. Strength dies when it's never tested. Ambition fades when every impulse is satisfied. You begin to shrink, spiritually and mentally, until all that's left of you is appetite. You're not chasing purpose anymore. You're chasing comfort disguised as success. You work not to create, but to consume. You don't rest to recover. You rest to escape. Society has mastered this design. It praises softness while quietly punishing strength. It tells men to be gentle, take it easy, avoid stress, and as if the absence of struggle is a virtue. But comfort doesn't make you peaceful. It makes you passive. It breeds entitlement, dullness, and dependency. It gives you everything, except the one thing you actually need, respect for yourself. Because deep down, Every man knows he's losing something sacred when he stops struggling. Look at history. No great man was born in comfort. No empire was built by someone chasing peace. Growth, power, dominance, all come from friction. Comfort has killed more potential than pain ever did, and yet you worship it like it's salvation. You let the glow of your devices replace the fire in your eyes. You eat, scroll, sleep, repeat, and you call it a lifestyle. But comfort is not peace. It's submission dressed in luxury. Every time you choose ease over effort, you make a silent trade. Your strength for your satisfaction. The world will keep feeding you comfort, as long as it keeps you weak. The more you have, the more they own you. And the only way to break free is to starve the part of you that craves softness more than sovereignty. Everything that controls you begins with what you think you need. The need for love, the need for respect, the need for comfort, approval, validation. Every one of them feels human, but each one is a chain. Invisible, but unbreakable, until you see it for what it is. A man isn't destroyed by his enemies. He's destroyed by his needs. Because the moment you need something, you surrender power to it. You hand over control and call it connection. Need is the most subtle form of slavery. You think you're choosing, but in truth, you're obeying. Every desire that owns your focus owns your freedom. You can't walk away from what you crave, and that's exactly how the world traps you. You stop responding to the pull of external pleasure, and for a while, everything feels meaningless. You'll want to run back to the dopamine, the noise, the comfort. But you can't. Once you've seen the truth of your dependency, there's no unseeing it. You begin to starve the illusions. You stop giving your energy to things that drain your power. You detach, not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. Desire has always been the enemy of peace. It's endless. It multiplies with every satisfaction. You feed it once and it returns hungrier. But when you stop feeding it, when you let it die, something extraordinary happens. You begin to feel light. The mind quiets. The body steadies. The spirit stops begging and starts observing. You no longer crave. You choose. Most men never make it here. They'd rather live hungry than hollow. But those who do, they discover a new kind of strength, one born from absence. Because when nothing owns you, everything obeys you. Peace doesn't come from getting what you want. It begins the moment you stop needing it. Peace begins where wanting ends. At first, the absence feels unbearable. When you've lived your whole life chasing noise, silence feels like death. The world calls it emptiness, but it isn't. It's cleansing, the purge of all false hunger. You're no longer being pulled by wants, and in that void, you discover something sacred, clarity. This is where men confuse loss with liberation. They think they've been stripped bare. In truth, they've been freed. But freedom without discipline is chaos. To master the absence, you must learn restraint, the most powerful and least celebrated virtue left in this world. In a society that worships indulgence, restraint is rebellion. Every time you say no, you reclaim a piece of your strength. Every desire resisted becomes a declaration of dominance over yourself. Because the man who can say no to pleasure, to comfort, to approval becomes untouchable. Discipline is not punishment. It's purification. It's the daily ritual of silence, repetition, and control that reforges your identity. When you eat less, speak less, crave less, you start to see more. The mind clears, the senses sharpen. You begin to sense a strange kind of serenity, not from abundance, but from precision. You realize how little you truly need. The body requires food. The mind requires purpose. The soul requires nothing. Everything else is decoration, unnecessary weight that slows your ascension. Restraint doesn't make you weaker. It makes you potent. Energy that once leaked through endless desires now condenses into power. Your movements become deliberate. Your words become heavy. You stop wasting energy convincing, chasing, or reacting. You become efficient, a weapon with no excess motion. This is the discipline of absence, cutting until only truth remains. The weak mock discipline because they don't understand it. They see it as denial, not direction. They confuse pleasure with freedom. Not realizing pleasure is what chains them. Discipline, on the other hand, is liberation disguised as control. The world tells you to indulge, to treat yourself, to live a little. But every indulgence chips away at your edge. Every comfort dulls your clarity. Luxury makes men soft. Restraint makes them gods. In this phase, peace stops being an idea and becomes a state of existence. You no longer chase it, you embody it. You can sit in hunger and not move. You can stand in chaos and not react. You can walk through temptation and not bow. You become sovereign over your impulses, and that sovereignty radiates. Others feel it before they understand it. The quiet man who doesn't need, he's dangerous, because nothing controls him anymore. This is the paradox of peace. The less you want, the more power you have. The more you strip away, the clearer you become. In a world obsessed with more, you become infinite through less. He doesn't crave peace anymore. He is peace. There comes a moment when you stop trying to control the world and start mastering the only kingdom that ever truly mattered, yourself. Every emotion, every reaction, every desire that once dictated your life now bends beneath your command. This is not peace by avoidance, but dominion by understanding. You no longer suppress the chaos. You orchestrate it. You have learned the first and final law of power. Control begins within. The man who rules himself doesn't need to rule others. He doesn't crave recognition or dominance because he already possesses the only form of control that can't be taken from him. He governs his emotions like a general commands his army, firm, precise, unwavering. Anger becomes strategy. Fear becomes focus. Loneliness becomes stillness. Even pain transforms, no longer a punishment, but a source of insight. The external world may shift, betray, or crumble, yet internally he remains unmoved. That is dominion, absolute inner authority. The weak think control is manipulation, bending others, forcing outcomes. But real control doesn't chase power. It attracts it. The calm man dominates without raising his voice. The composed man influences without effort. He is gravity, silent, unseen, yet everything moves around him, because the world is drawn to what it cannot shake. The man who doesn't react owns every man who does. But this dominion comes with cost. Solitude. Few can understand this level of detachment. They'll call you distant, emotionless, even cold. They don't have to imprison you. They just have to make you want more status, want more affection, want to be seen, to be chosen, to be loved. You spend your life chasing people and possessions that make you feel whole, while forgetting that the hunger itself is the real prison. This is why peace never lasts, because every peaceful moment is built on fragile conditions. You're calm only when your desires are met. You're kind only when you're loved. You're strong only when you're winning. But the man who's dependent on circumstances will always be unstable. His peace will always be temporary. Because what happens when the world stops giving him what he wants? He collapses. And that collapse is proof that he was never in control. His needs were. You tell yourself you're working hard to improve your life. But deep down, you're working to feed your needs. The need to feel superior, the need to be admired, the need to feel safe. Every goal you chase has a hidden master behind it. That's why most success feels hollow, because it wasn't born from freedom, but from dependence. To be free, you must starve your addictions, not just to substances, but to emotions, to approval, to outcomes. You must learn to stand alone and still feel whole. Because until you do, you'll keep mistaking attachment for meaning and desire for direction. The world will tempt you with endless ways to feed your needs. But peace will only come when you no longer have any. Every need is a leash around your neck, and you're the one holding the other end. At some point, every man who claims to be free faces the truth. He isn't. He's just comfortable enough to believe he is. His life is built not on strength, but on scaffolding made of needs. He doesn't love without expecting to be loved back. He doesn't work without craving recognition. He doesn't move without checking if someone's watching. And when those needs go unmet, his peace collapses, his mind unravels, and the illusion of control dies. That's the mirror. The moment he finally sees what owns him, you can't hide from it. The mirror doesn't care about your excuses, your image, your self-help mantras. It reflects every dependency you've disguised as purpose. You think you're driven, but you're desperate. You think you're loyal, but you're afraid. You think you're calm, but you're numb. The truth is brutal. Most of what you call love is fear of being alone. Most of what you call success is fear of being unseen. Most of what you call peace is fear of confrontation. And when that mirror shows it to you, unfiltered, merciless, you either break or you rebuild. It's an ugly realization. You've been living your whole life for others, trapped in invisible negotiations, every choice a performance, every achievement a plea. You've spent years proving yourself to ghosts, people who stopped thinking about you long ago. Your worth has always been conditional, tied to outcomes, attention, or approval. That's not peace. That's a transaction. You're not living freely. You're living on a leash. The silence that follows this awareness is heavy. You start to notice how everything you cling to, love, money, validation, even meaning, feeds your dependency. You begin to understand why peace never stays, because you've been trying to buy it with things that can vanish. Need is temporary fuel. It burns fast and leaves you empty. But that emptiness, that's where the truth begins. In that emptiness, you face the man beneath the mask. Not the version you show the world, the real one. The one who's still terrified of being insignificant. The one who mistakes attention for love, applause for purpose, control for confidence. You see him clearly now, trembling under the weight of his own needs. And for the first time, you stop hating him. You realize he's not weak. He's just addicted. Addicted to what made him feel alive. Addicted to the illusion of being needed. You call it love. You call it ambition. You call it purpose. But it's all the same. Dependency, with better branding. And now you have a choice. Destroy the illusion, or keep pretending you're free. Because the things you can't live without already own you. When you finally see the truth, that everything you chase owns you, something inside you starts to fracture. It's not pain this time. It's rebellion. The soul gets tired of begging, tired of needing, proving, performing. You feel it like a quiet violence in your chest, the urge to burn every false desire that's ever dictated your worth. This is the breaking point, the moment when the old you begins to die. At first it feels like loss, The withdrawal from desire feels like losing oxygen. You've spent years defining yourself through wanting. Wanting love, wanting power, wanting to be seen. Now when you strip those wants away, what's left? Silence, emptiness, a terrifying calm that feels like death. And that's exactly what it is. The death of the man who depended on wanting to exist. You start to notice how everything you once called motivation was really manipulation. You weren't pursuing dreams. You were chasing validation dressed as purpose. The relationships you thought were built on loyalty were built on need. Every achievement you celebrated was another attempt to feel complete. The moment you stop feeding those desires, the world loses interest in you. And that's when the real war begins. Because breaking desire isn't glamorous. It's cold. It's lonely. But they're confusing emptiness with equilibrium. You haven't stopped feeling. You've stopped depending. You can still love, but you no longer need. You can still give, but you no longer expect. That's what makes your presence different. It's not fueled by hunger, but by purpose. When you master yourself, you stop asking the universe for fairness or comfort. You don't pray for peace. You embody it. You understand that control is not about perfection, but about precision. It's not about forcing outcomes, but about never being enslaved by them. When you reach this state, even chaos becomes predictable, because nothing external can violate your inner order. This is the law of inner dominion. Control the need, and you control the world. Every man who ever ruled, from conquerors to philosophers, learned this truth in silence. The more they mastered themselves, the less the world could harm them. Need is chaos. Detachment is order. The man who has conquered himself cannot be conquered by anything else. There's a kind of silence that no music can follow. It's not the silence of retreat or meditation. It's the silence that arrives after the final war within, when every desire has burned out, every need has been buried, and every illusion of control has turned to dust. What remains is not emptiness. It's dominion. This is peace, not the emotional calm the world advertises, but the absolute absence of need. Most men spend their lives running from this silence. They fear it because it feels like death, and in a way, it is. The death of everything false. No hunger for validation, no craving for attention, no ache for belonging. You are no longer waiting for someone to see you, choose you, or save you. You are whole, not because you have everything, but because you need nothing. The quiet no longer taunts you. It crowns you. He sits in the same room where he once wrestled with restlessness. The same walls, the same shadows. But everything has changed. The stillness that once mocked him now obeys him. He doesn't meditate to find peace anymore. He radiates it. His breathing is slow, his gaze unbroken. Nothing in him moves unless he wills it. He doesn't chase love, wealth, or purpose. They orbit him naturally, drawn by the gravity of his self-command. This is the paradox of power. The man who needs nothing gains everything. When you detach from outcome, the world bends toward you, not because you demand it, but because you've become immune to loss. You can't be manipulated, bribed, or distracted, and that terrifies people. They can't buy you, flatter you, or shame you into movement. You've stepped outside the economy of need, and now everything that once owned you looks small. Peace, real peace, is not happiness. Happiness depends on conditions. Peace exists without them. It is not joy. Joy still trembles. It is not love. Love still asks. It is not hope. Hope still fears. Peace is colder, harder, purer. It's a quiet so heavy that most can't bear it. But for the few who reach it, it feels like divinity. Not the ecstatic kind, but the sovereign kind. The kind that doesn't beg the universe for order, but is order. There's a strange authority in needing nothing. You stop bargaining with life. You no longer pray for less pain, or more luck, or softer lessons. You simply exist, disciplined, detached, alive. The storm still rages around you, but it no longer enters you. You watch the chaos the way gods watch mortals. Without judgment, without fear, without reaction. When you reach this point, words like success, failure, victory, or defeat lose their meaning. You realize that the only true battle was with your own craving, and you've already won. You no longer chase anything, because you've become everything you were chasing. He stands, walks to the window and looks out at the world. Calm, expressionless, complete. There's no pride, no triumph, just stillness. The same man who once begged for peace now understands the truth. Peace isn't given. It's earned, one desire destroyed at a time. He turns, steps into the quiet, and disappears into the dark. Not as a man escaping the world, but as one who has finally mastered it. A single whisper remains, carried through the silence like the closing of a gate. You mistake freedom for abundance. Real freedom is absence. Pause. The screen fades to black. Peace was never happiness. It was hunger, finally gone.